evening and Happy New Year, everybody. This is Kahmel Farahani, first new MetalTalk TV of the year with the legend himself, Mr. Doug Aldrich. How are you, sir?
I'm good, man. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for coming. Well, I think the last time that we spoke was after your Burning Rain gig in London. That was about what?
Oh, wow. Yeah, it was about
a
year and a half ago.
Year and a half ago. Some stuff has changed in that time.
Yeah.
Little things, but how are you holding up? How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing, pretty well. I can't complain. It's just been a juggling act, being home so long, and I'm doing, we're really excited about the new release and Holy Ground, and so we've been doing a bit of promo for that, doing some songwriting with Glenn a little bit. A lot of, the 2020 flew past us, but it was just bizarre. It flew by, and we're all a year older, but it felt like slow motion at the same time. Every minute of every day thinking about this pandemic and how to stay safe. And so, but anyway, like I said, I can't complain. I've been very lucky to be working from home with my family, and so far, safe. I'm
not good.
COVID free.
Yeah. Well, that's the weird thing, right? It seems like without these kind of time markers, especially without gigs, everyone's just, lost track.
Yeah, it's absolutely. It's just like when it started to come up to Christmas, I'm like, what?
Yeah. Christmas?
But
yeah. That's weird. Well, I mean, the first thing we got to ask you about is you have an awesome new album coming out. I'm very lucky to have a copy, but everyone else who hasn't got a copy should check it out. Holy Ground.
Yeah, we're really excited about it. It's we recorded it in the south of France at a really beautiful chalet. Sorry, not chalet, chateau. Big difference. It was like this amazing property where the band could live and record and do everything. And so that's what we did. We basically camped out there for 3 weeks in November, and then 3 weeks in December, and we wrote and recorded during that time. It was a really amazing experience to be that focused on this record, so we needed time to, as we've got Glenn Hughes in the band, and
I was going to ask.
So we were needing to have some time together to, to kind of gel as a band. And so we found this studio. It was perfect. We basically would wake up, have breakfast together, and then just go jam, go play. We had, we prepared some ideas when we got there, and then we finished those and also came up with some others too. So it was just killer. And we started mixing it. There was a few little bits left to do in January of last year. And we, a couple things Glenn and I needed to wrap up. We did that, and then they started mixing. Ben Gross, the producer, started mixing in February, and I think it was ready for an April release, but it got pushed back till now. So.
Well, that's awesome. Well, I was going to ask you actually, because this is Glenn's first album with the Daisies. How did you find the whole writing experience? Because you've played with Glenn before, and obviously you guys have played with Dean before. How'd you find it?
It was. I mean, I knew it was going to be amazing because Glenn is just, he's so musical in everything that he does. And he really brought a lot to the band in a different direction. There was nothing, we love John and Marco. There was nothing wrong with that lineup. But we wanted to make a fresh start, start a revolution with the band, So Glenn was the perfect opportunity for that. When I heard that Glenn was interested, management said, well, give him a call. He wants to talk to you. And he said, Doug, it's time for us to make some music together. We had, as you mentioned, we had toured together. We had been in, on the road and stuff. And I knew some of those, all those gigs were really great for me because just in a trio situation with Glenn on bass and singing, it was amazing. So then he joins the band, and we needed time to gel, you know.
Yeah.
He had some musical ideas. He had a bunch of ideas actually, and I had started to write with Glenn in mind, which was it was cool because prior to us knowing who it was going to be, I wasn't sure what direction we were going to be going in. But then when I talked to Glenn, it was like, I know what Glenn wants. He wants some heavy groove stuff, and he had some really really solid ideas that from start to finish in terms of the basic music part, but also basic lyrics and melodies. So it was like just kind of daisifying that stuff and getting him to put his stamp on some of the ideas that I came up with.
Yeah. Well, actually, I was going to ask you about your writing process, because what I've heard of the record, like the singles Holy Ground and Unspoken, they're such punchy, kind of hook-heavy songs, and they're so easy, you know, to say they're daisies. But I was going to ask you, when you're writing for, say, the Daisies, do you ever think in your head that, you know, this is to purpose, it's got to be like a 4-minute hook heavy, something the audience can sing, or do you just say, let it take me wherever the guitar goes, let's see what happens?
We basically sorry, that was my daughter. I don't know if she was calling me or somebody else, but we would basically let the song dictate where it was going to go. If it felt good to put a third verse, we would. If it felt good to go directly into a chorus, we would do that. Sometimes, you know, you can overthink things. Sometimes we would basically just kind of go with it, and longer generally is how it ends up being. And then maybe the producer would come to us and say, he'd come to us and say, look guys, I think this song would work really well if we cut this part out, you know. So then we generally figured all that stuff out before we started tracking together, and we'd go in and track it all live together.
That's fantastic. I mean, I guess that keeps the energy on the album so high. I was going to ask you, actually, one of the ones that really caught my ear was the 30 Days in the Hole cover, the Humble Pie cover.
Yeah.
Because that's just you and Glenn, really, isn't it? Basically just stripped back.
That is, that's a different version.
The version is the stripped naked version, the sessions version.
Yeah, it's that was basically an idea I had we were looking for content to put out during the year, you know, when people were at home and they were wanting to hear some new music. And so we had done an acoustic version of Unspoken. We had done a couple of we had done Righteous Days, which was on the album. That was the first song that we wrote together, actually. And then we were looking for something else to do, and so I thought, well, 30 Days in the Hole, we could do that. That's not really giving away too much if people know the song. So yeah, we just thought, I said to Glenn, why don't we do like almost like a gospel version? And I was thinking first of doing it, you know, with electric guitar, just with really clean. And then I thought, nah, maybe do something acoustic. So I basically threw down an idea for Glenn, and he sang on it, and it was done, you know, pretty easy. He sang beautifully. You know what was interesting is that he cut that track a few times. We had to do it all in one go because it was you know, it was like filmed, so he had to do it all in one go. But man, every version he did was incredible. That just happened to be one that we picked. It was complete version. So yeah.
Is he one of those organic guys? I've seen the videos I've seen in the studio where he's just, you know, throwing out melodies and throwing out like bass lines right, left, and center.
Totally. You know, there was a couple songs that when we were in France, we were working on what song was that? Come Alive, we worked
Yeah.
on. I had a part that was a verse part and a main riff kind of thing. But then it came to the chorus. I was like, what do you want to do? I don't really know if we should we go and sing a chorus over the over the riff, or and Glenn just picked up a guitar and just goes, here it is, and it was like, and then we all kind of put together like the second half of the chorus, but he basically filled in the blank with the melody and a guitar progression. So it's super easy. He is very organic when it comes to, if I had any idea, I could go to Glenn and go, what should I do with this? I mean, or how does it, he's like, oh, I love that part, but let's find something for me to sing here, or he might sing on top of it as it was, or he basically just picks up a guitar or bass and has a finished idea in like a matter of minutes, No,
that's awesome. Well, personally, where do you hope you've just got your new album out, for everyone who doesn't know yet. You've got your new album out. Where do you hope the Daisies are going to go kind of musically and for the future of the band in the next, say, year or two?
Yeah, hopefully we're going to go on the road this year.
Yeah.
We are planning on it. I think we're going to start rehearsals in March or something like that.
That's great.
Maybe, give or take. Yeah, we actually, we did rehearse last year in it was the beginning of October. It was kind of, it had cooled down a bit here, and we got together and played all the new stuff, and then a few of the older things that we might stick in the show. But we've got a brand new show we've discussed to put together, new production, like totally starting fresh.
Nice. And
I'm hoping that by May or June we'll be cleared to travel, and people will be able to start coming. Yeah,
that'll be fantastic. Here. Hopefully so. I wanted to ask if we could go back a little bit through your amazing discography, if that's cool.
Of course.
Oh, thank you. I wanted to ask you about working with the late great Brian James Dio, especially on Killing the Dragon and that kind of thing, because I was speaking to Rudy Sarzo a few months ago, and he was talking about that period of working with Dio was such a great time creatively and musically. I wanted to ask your memories of that time and of Dio.
Yeah. Well, yeah, when I joined the band, I think, classic hard, heavy rock was starting to come back a bit. Like some bands had taken a little bit of a hiatus. I mean, for like Whitesnake was kind of on hiatus. Scorpions were working, but not maybe as much. And it just
they were playing smaller shows. Yeah. Everybody was playing smaller shows. It was between grunge and all that new wave stuff.
Yeah, grunge was starting to die out, but around the end of the 90s and then into the early 2000s, it was starting to come back. And then Ronnie asked me to join the band, and we made Killing the Dragon, and it was an amazing experience. And Jimmy Bain was actually key to me getting in the band. He called me like about 6 months earlier and said, "Hey Doug, we're doing a record, or we're gonna do a record, and we might be making a change on guitar. Would you be interested?" And I said, "Absolutely." So I was just basically at home producing stuff and writing and doing, engineering, all kinds of stuff at home, learning. And so I said, yeah. And 6 months goes by, and I called Jimmy back. I'm like, "What happened?" He goes, "We're still thinking about it." I'm like, "Well, figure it out, Yeah. So he called me and said, okay, it was like December 26th. It was the day after Christmas, and we went to a British pub, and Ronnie always loved the pub. The last time I'd seen Ronnie was in a British pub about 10 years earlier, and so he goes, "So Doug, what do you think about playing a couple solos on our new record?" I'm like, I look at Jimmy and I'm like, "No, I want to play everything. I want to be the guitar player on the record. That's what I'm here for." And he goes, "Okay, start tomorrow." So December 27th, I got in the studio. Ronnie just had a place next to the recording console where he would sit and do crossword puzzles. And he'd be sitting there, he'd have his glasses on. I remember, I would just see his back. I'd be playing and I'd go, Ronnie, what do you think about that? And he would be like, huh? I'd be like, play it, and so I'd play it, they'd play back the song and he'd go, that's great. That's really great, Doug. And he was very supportive and totally trusted me. You could tell that I was definitely into it. And we got done with that record and started rehearsing, and Ronnie loved to rehearse, man. We would rehearse that was when I joined the band. I wanted to be the biggest shoes that he had ever had. That was my goal. And so we rehearsed probably for close to 2 months prior to to going on that first tour, which was supporting the Scorpions and Deep Purple, and Dio supporting it. We had an hour set, which was great. So we would start the show, and it would be getting full. But by the time we started to lay into songs like Holy Diver and Rainbow in the Dark and Heaven and Hell, the place was packed every night. And it was great for Ronnie. Ronnie was he would just own that stage. I really learned a lot from him. So it was amazing. And then later, after I had been in Whitesnake for several years, Ronnie asked me to fill in on a tour where I didn't know we were going to be filming it. I found out when I got there was cameras around. I'm like, what's going on? And he goes, and Wendy said, we're filming this. We're going to make a DVD at the Astoria in London.
Ooh, I've seen that.
Yeah. So I was like, oh gosh, so I had to really work hard to, I kind of jumped in mid-tour. Craig had I think he broke his hand or something. And I jumped in mid-tour, and it was a lot I remember the first gig that I did with him was in Eindhoven, Holland. And it was, I just remember being really nervous. I played a lot of gigs with Ronnie, but they had all these new endings parts, so it'd be like, the ending would be like, it'd be like something like that. And it would be like this long thing that had to be perfect. So the song would be cool. Some of the solos I couldn't remember all the way, but I did pretty cool, but I could I could get through that.
Yeah.
But the ending, it would have to be perfect, and I knew is very, it was important to Ronnie.
Yeah, bless him.
Right.
Well, you played on his last ever single as well. I think it was Electra, wasn't it? The last ever solo single of Dio's.
Yeah. That was it was such a bad time to find out that he had cancer. He wanted to keep his band busy, and he wanted to he had an opportunity in the winter of, I guess it was 2009, an opportunity to go do some dates. And he wanted to do it. He wanted his band to be busy, and I think he wanted to just keep his chops up, and so we booked this tour. He asked me to do the tour. Craig was doing Budgie, I think, at the time. And so he asked me to do the tour, and Rudy Sarzo had been in the band for a while, and Rudy's great friend of mine, and Simon and Scott. It was just a bunch of great dudes. We got in rehearsal, and during that time, Ronnie was complaining a little bit of stomach pains. He didn't know what it was, and then we went to his house to work on that song. And we made a little demo of it, and he was. I remember he complained that day. It was like, man, stomach thing's just kicking my ass. And we went in the studio, and when he was recording it, I remember him wincing when he was singing. And it was, just not good. So we got in rehearsal, and both Rudy and I were like, Ronnie, this was a European tour we were going to do, and Whitesnake was off at the time, and so I just said, we were sitting on this couch at the rehearsal studio, and we said, Ronnie, you got to go get this checked, because you don't want, if it's like an appendix or something, you don't want to be stuck in. Actually, it wouldn't be so bad to be stuck in Helsinki, Finland, if you were sick, because they got great hospitals in Europe, everywhere. But he went to the doctor, and then they found out. I knew there was something up because Ronnie loved, like I told you, he loved to rehearse. So we were rehearsing for that tour, and we only had about 3 weeks, but we would go through the set twice. And I remember working on my guitar solo, and I was trying to figure out how to do it. And Ronnie had a couple suggestions for me. And I remember him sitting there in front of me when I was playing the solo, and he's like, "Yeah, I love that part. You got to find a way to connect that with that." And so then one day we were doing the set, and he said, "Guys, I gotta knock it on the head. I gotta go. I just don't. My stomach's not feeling good."
Yeah.
And then the next day, it was like a Friday. Then the next day for rehearsal was on a Monday. On Monday, I think it was, and we show up at rehearsal, and Ronnie's not there, and that was strange because he was always the first to arrive or leave. He'd be the first to arrive, the last to leave. And then he wasn't there, and Simon walked in, and he just said, "Look, Wendy told us to just rehearse. She just wants us to go through the set. And, Ronnie's got to do some more testing and stuff."
Yeah.
And Wendy came at the end of rehearsal, and I was like, "Okay, something's up, man."
Yeah.
And she told us. So that was, and then, we all met up at Ronnie's house the next day, and, tried to cheer him up and make sure he was going to fight this thing and kill the dragon. And, so.
Awesome. That's wonderful. God bless him. Well, he's still much missed.
Yeah,
Definitely.
man. I still, like a lot of times I'm working out or going for a run or sometimes when it's going to sound weird, but like sometimes when it's kind of got a moody sky, it's cloudy out, I'll crank some Dio, just because so many times we'd be on tour, and especially we did play a lot in the US, probably more so in the US during the time I was with him, but we had some great tours in Europe and in the UK, and it was always cloudy, and I just remember being on stage with him at a festival or something. It would be like super cold and cloudy, and we'd be playing, Holy Diver or Heaven and Hell, something,
Oh, awesome. Hey. Well, I was going to ask you actually about Whitesnake, and I was talking actually to Red Beach about, I don't know, 5-6 weeks ago, and I said, one of my favorite hard rock records in the last 20 years is Good to Be Bad. How did that come about? And he goes, "Well, I'd love to tell you, but that's all Doug. You got to ask Doug." So
it's not all me. He did play on it, but he just wasn't. He wasn't. It wasn't easy, I think, for Reb because David and I just kind of started writing, and we just got into a groove. And David was really excited about the demos that we had done, and so there was, it was difficult for Reb. It would have been cooler had Reb been more involved, but it was I really loved that record. It turned out great. And what Reb did do on that, the solos that he did play were killer.
Oh, it's one of my favorite rock records, period. But I think it's also one of the best Whitesnake records, to be honest.
Thank you.
No worries. And how I was going to ask, can you just walk us through some of the kind of the process of writing with Coverdale, and also a few of those songs like Fool in Love Again? Some of them are just unbelievable, like Zeppelin feeling, epic.
Yeah. That was we were just trying to find some way to kind of connect the bluesy side of Whitesnake with the 80s, the popular 87 record, that was trying to find a hybrid between that. So for an example, there'd be sometimes a concept of like, oh, well, Still the Night is basically a blues song. It's like a call and response thing. So we came up with some riffs and stuff and it was pretty easy, basically, because I would just play a riff, and then David would sing, and then I'd play the riff. songs like Lay Down Your Love, or Good to Be Bad. I remember it was basically, when not a riff, that one was basically just, I just started going, and I thought,
Wow.
so it's based around, it's just based around that. Down, man. And you know what I mean? I can't sing it.
Yeah.
But basically, so it just kind of, I started playing this thing, and I told him,
Mm-hmm.
I actually said to David, you know, I'm hearing this kind of, but I wasn't sure if that was going to be stick or not, but he just started singing it, and I was playing. I remember he was sitting behind me, and he started singing it, and I went to the next chord, and he kept singing, and it was just like, whoa, the hairs on the back of my neck stood up. It was so cool. Then stuff like Lay Down Your Love, and Call on Me were more riffy. So Lay Down Your Love was more of an open tuning. It was, I just did it in regular tuning right here, but kind of it sounds like a Whitesnake-y type of bluesy thing. And then the is I think with Whitesnake, a lot of it, you know, is that bluesy, that it's kind of, they would, as you know, they would call it a minor seven chord.
Yeah.
And we use that chord a lot. The first time I heard that chord was Fool for Your Lovin', and it was it was all this stuff was minor 7 chords. So it was like, that was like the Whitesnake sound to me when I first heard Whitesnake. And so I use that a lot as a thing. And then there were songs that, like Fool in Love, that you mentioned. It was just just very simple. Sorry, it's not loud, but if I plugged in the amp, my dog would start howling. She sings with me when I'm playing. But and then the intro David had this.
Oh, the bluesy,
So we were like, and it was, you know, kind of turned into the song. And then the chorus, actually forget the chorus. I'm trying to remember the chorus now, but it was kind of a little bit of it had this minor blues thing going on, and then it got to the chorus.
Yeah. Well, it was almost. There you go.
It's a major, it's a major progression. It goes to the relative major, so it was kind of a hooky thing. I learned so much about composition and stuff from David. He's just like Glenn, just like a natural, you know.
Yeah. Well, that record, I think, you know, that was the Whitesnake Comeback album. I think it's fair to say, because they'd gone so long without it. Were you surprised at the reception from kind of everybody, critics, press, you know, fans, whatever, when that came out?
I didn't really think about it. I mean, I was happy, but we were just into it. We were so like, we were so laser beam focused on that album. I was gone, either he was at my house or I was at his house the entire year leading up to that, working on songs. And like I said, we just got on a roll. We didn't even, just before we knew it, we had 12 songs or something. So it's just a writing streak, you know. So we lost consciousness of everything else pretty much and just focused on that. And it was it turned out really good, and we knew it was good, but we didn't know that people would like it. We just knew that we liked it. I thought, I'm really proud of this record. During that time, we were recording in David's theater down in his home, and I'll never forget. He had Pro Tools, but it was like an older generation Pro Tools, and the computer was kind of crashing a lot. Like as we get down the road, there was so many tracks involved, everybody, that the computer would start to, I mean, literally like start to smoke. And I remember sitting down there with David, and he's just like, what's this? I'm like, sorry, DC, I gotta restart the computer and you know, get it rebooted. And it's like, all right, well, let me know when it's back. But actually during that time, I got a call from Dizzy Reed from Guns N' Roses saying that they were putting the band back together, or they were, I think they had done Chinese Democracy maybe, and they were gonna, so they were looking for like a guy to play like Slash's style. And
did they ask you?
Yeah, he asked me to come audition. And I said, Dizzy, I'm right in the middle of a Whitesnake record. He goes, oh yeah, that's right. I go, wait till you hear it, man. It's smoking. He goes, oh, that's cool. Dizzy's always been a really great friend of mine, and he always he played on a couple sessions I had done like 15 years earlier or something, and just blew me away with what he played. So we stayed in touch. So anyway, I said, I go, you know I'm in Whitesnake, right? He goes, yeah, I think I saw you guys, like, you know. But anyway. That record turned out really good.
It did. If you hadn't been in Whitesnake, would you have taken the Guns N' Roses gig?
Well, he didn't offer me the gig. He was gonna. It was just come audition.
Yeah.
I you know, to be honest, I don't know. Maybe I would have, and maybe I wouldn't have gone on. I don't know. What my headspace was from going from Dio to Whitesnake, I probably would have just stayed in Dio, you know. But David and I hit it off, and it just was a good partnership.
Nice, wonderful. Well, do you think there's I've got to ask about the future now. Do you think there's a solo album on the cards? Because I'm looking through, it's been a while.
I have a few ideas that I play around with, and I could do something, but really, to be honest, the Dead Daisies is my priority. And that's, especially now with Glenn, we're ready to take it up to, you know, a few notches, and I can't wait to get back in rehearsal. You know, everybody wants to live music so we can all go see shows together and play shows together. But for me, I'll be honest with you, the most favorite part of preparation of a tour is the preparation. It's going in rehearsal. Because imagine, you know, when you're on tour and you go, as you know, you go from city to city, you show up to the gig, you play the gig, and you leave, and you don't really get to spend much time with your gear.
No.
But during rehearsal, you're set up in one spot. You can tweak things every day. When people leave, you got time to figure stuff out, what you want to try and change or make it better. And you get a chance to really, you know, dial in everything exactly how you want it, play all your guitars as much as you want. And then you go home and come back the next day, and you know, so you basically have the best of all worlds to go through all your gear and rehearse play the music and not have to be tired from traveling or whatever, you know. So that's my favorite part, is rehearsing for a tour. Then playing the tour obviously is fun, but rehearsal is my favorite. Like Ronnie, I think Ronnie, without saying it, that's something I learned from him, you know.
Awesome. Well, actually, that actually leads me on to a question I wanted to ask you for the kind of gearheads and guitar nerds out there, which was asking, when's the Doug Aldrich Gold Top coming? When's the Doug R7? Because you need your own R7 custom, you know.
I don't know if I need it. I'd be happy to do something like that with Gibson down the road one day, maybe, but there's no pressure for me on that. They've got great guys that they're working with, and they're working with me as well. But I basically, I'll show you. I got one right here. Is this this Gold Top is 2006 R7 that is kind of
that's gorgeous.
It's got Sir humbuckers in it that John Sir started doing specifically for my Les Pauls back, I don't know, 15 years ago or so. And man, it's just a killer pickup. Tone Pros, I put Tone Pros for touring on the guitars. And then the frets are done by a guy called Bruce Nelson, who is he does all the frets on all my guitars. And other than that, it's pretty much stock. But this guitar and I've got several gold tops, but this one, that one, and one other one are my favorite for touring. They're rock solid. They stay in tune great, and that's it. But look, at this is a guitar that Bruce Nelson, the guy that I just mentioned, he does the frets. He put together it's kind of a junior. Yeah. It's a Nelson.
Oh, it's
a Nelson Junior, and it's insane. It's got a crazy fat neck on it. It's even fatter than the 57s.
Oh, really?
But he put this together for me. It's an insanely amazing sounding guitar, and just kind of on. I don't know if it's on loan or if what's happening with that guitar.
Make him an offer.
He did. I've got 2 juniors, and he one was a 59 that I used on the first. I've used it. There we go. I used it on the Make Some Noise record and a little bit on the Burn It Down record, but he had refretted this 59 junior, which is kind of a rare year for a junior. There weren't many of 59, and man, that guitar plays. It's probably the best playing guitar I own, and his fretwork is just immaculate. Yeah. And so I think that's why he knows I like to travel with juniors, because they're so light, you can carry it anywhere. And so he put that together.
Nice. Well, I wanted to ask you, I guess, to wrap it up, I wanted to ask you, because you guys did the Kiss Cruise a while back, a couple of years ago. I'm representing today, just in case.
Oh, cool.
I wanted to ask you, I don't know if you've seen it, but it gets a lot of coverage in the rock press of Gene Simmons commenting on the state of rock, and, I don't know. I don't think he said it was dead, but I think in context, he said that the young bands aren't having time or effort to develop something epic and glamorous, something like that. But as someone who's been through so many legends, what do you think about that?
Well, I know that there are some bands that are coming up with some killer stuff. Yeah. And it's just a little different. I mean, I think that it would be awesome if there was a band that came out that was like the next Kiss or the next Van Halen or the next Led Zeppelin. Well, there is. I mean, Greta Van Fleet is a very Zeppelin influence, and they're amazing. Yeah. There's there's a couple of brand new bands. Tyler Bryant and the Shakedown. It's a blues-based killer band. The kid's so talented, and it's great. And Jared James Nichols is a buddy of mine. He's a fantastic singer, guitar player. I should say guitar player, singer. Yeah. He's got a great voice, and he's the front man, but everybody knows him for his guitar playing.
I had the honor of jamming with him once when I'm feebly keeping the rhythm down while he's doing everything, chicken picking. I go, okay, this guy.
Well, I think for me, Jared is his intonation is what blows me away. I mean, he plays brilliantly no matter what, but his intonation, for his bending and intonation, it's insane. He's like, it's like if you need to get your solo checked, like how's the tuning feel on this solo? Call Jared and send it to him. Maybe. Him or Glenn, because Glenn's got a perfect ear too. Glenn is like when we were writing for Holy Ground, we took a break after the initial sessions, and Glenn had a bunch of ideas that he wanted to present, and I said, well, why don't I help you with we can demo them up and get them to a point where you can send them out to everybody so you can get an idea. Yeah. So I go to Glenn's house, and I brought my little travel computer thing, and he started showing me the parts. I go, well, instead of you showing me, why don't you just play it how you feel it?
Yeah.
Because I'll just record you, you know. And so I put down a click track, and then Glenn put a guitar down, and then I was like, okay, is that the how you want to start it? He goes, well, that's one part. And so I go, okay, well, let's double it.
Yeah.
And then we get that, and then it was just against the click track, and then he go, and the verse is going to be this, and he'd play the verse for 8 bars.
Yeah.
I'd be like, is that cool? And he goes, that's basically it. I go, well, let's double it. So then we double it. And then we basically just do all these chunks, and then we'd kind of put the chunks together and arrange it so that it, but the thing that was interesting is Glenn, he goes, you know, the guitar's out of tune and a little rust here and there. Can you fix that stuff later? You know, replace the parts. I go, yeah, I'll do it. But this has got a great vibe. And he'd be like, thank you, man. Thank you. I'd be like, there's a way that you're playing this that is different than how I would play it. So I need to suss that out before I change anything. I don't want to lose those, you know, just between, if you're just playing, you know, one part, if you got 2 chords and it's going, there's a way that, you know, the way that he was playing it had a different feel. So I had to suss it out. Once I got it down, the way he was doing it, then I'd replace the guitars and put them in tune and stuff. But Glenn wanted them replaced, the guitars replaced, because his ear doesn't like when stuff's out of tune. So it bugs him. And there'd be times when I would be like, I had done a solo or been in the studio, and the producer would call me and go, hey, I need you for like 2 hours. Can you come in? And I'm like, yeah. And he'd have a little checklist of stuff he wanted me to do for Holy Ground or some song. And he'd be like, everything, this solo is killer, but there's one spot that I just want to check with you. Is that in tune? Is it right? Because Glenn had said to him, you know, make sure everything is in tune when you do it, you know? And I go, it sounds in tune. Let me just try it again a little differently. And we would either keep it or replace it, whatever. But it was like a thing, you know, it was like, we got to make sure.
That spot there, that little spot.
Yeah. Or that chord, is that chord right? I'm like, it's a little weird, but it's got a vibe. Okay, let's keep it.
Let's keep it. Well, that's what I think. I mean, that's what I think makes your playing special, makes a band like the Daisies still so interesting to fans, whoever, because there's some, I don't know, some records, especially like the modern rock guys you hear, they're so polished to like within an inch of their lives, it almost becomes, I don't know, you lose a vibe. Even if it's perfect, you just lose a vibe. And I like hearing that vibe. I like hearing the mics turning on or whatever, you know.
I do too. I actually really, one of the things I really enjoy about the Dead Daisies is playing guitar off of David Lowy. David is the founder and the leader of the band. He put it all together. But he doesn't try and pretend to do anything much more than just play rhythm. But the way that he plays it is very special.
Is he a good rhythm player?
He's technically a very honest, simple player, very basic, but he plays with like a lot of heart. And it's got a thing to it. Just like I was saying how Glenn played it. I don't, you know, but before I would probably have disregarded that kind of playing. I would have said, you know, I can do it slicker. But I can, but why? Why do it? Because it's got a vibe the way David's doing it. So, like, as an example, it's hard to kind of explain it, but when I joined the band, he said, "Are you cool with you and I playing together? Do you think our styles will work out?" And I said, "I think so. I mean, I had just gotten done, not just, but I had been in the last band was with Reb, and it worked out really great with Reb and I had a little kind of friendly competition, but then we also, at first, I think I was maybe a little too, I wanted it too much to be tight, but later I realized the beauty of 2 guitar players together is when they're kind of playing off each other a little bit. That's when, and I, you know, during my time in Whitesnake, I realized that. So when I got into Dead Daisies, I was like, I think it's going to be great. Yeah. So David, and I think it'll be, fine with us. I think it'll be really cool. Your style versus my style, and together, it really had a thing. And so we captured that on Make Some Noise, and it's still a thing on Holy Ground.
Yeah.
Like I put my guitar. We would track together, all of us, and we'd all kind of work out our parts and record them that way. But knowing that we were basically just going for the drums, maybe the bass we'd keep. And we did keep a lot of the bass from the original recordings to get tracking. But I would go in and kind of, I had an idea how I was going to approach each song, but I had to go in and do it. I had to go in and record it. So I would put my guitar on and it'd be like, yeah, that sounds really good, but the song would always be a little bit. It would have a little slick to it where in order to be a Dead Daisies thing, it's got to have a little more punch, a little more attitude. So that's what David would put his guitar in and be like, okay, now we're rocking, So credit where credit's due. He definitely is he's a thread that goes through all of the marks of the band. Like, how Deep Purple had Mark 1, 2, 3, 4. The Dead Daisies, we're now on Mark 4 or whatever. Yeah. You can call it Mark 3, Mark 4. So hopefully it's a good one.
Fingers crossed. I'm sure it will be. I was just going to say, parting message for any fans, hopefully hopefully see them out on the road, or what to expect from yourself or anyone in the near future. Just anything you want to tell them.
Well, I just want to say thanks for, supporting us, and thanks for supporting all the music. And there are going to be some new bands coming up. There's other ones I'm spacing on, but it's just going to be a little slow in the beginning of this year, but everyone stay safe, and we're going to get through it. We've been saying that for a year, or almost a year, but finally now with the vaccines and all that, we're going to see a big change in the spring. So look forward to seeing you guys on the road. Keep doing your thing, and we'll see you soon. Happy 21.
Happy 21. From the legend, Mr. Doug Aldrich, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, brother. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me on.